Alright, what's going on, guys? Hope you all are doing well. So today we're going to be ranking every single perk in Cold War Zombies. Now this game's been quite interesting in how they balance them, as in previous zombie games there were some pretty clear distinctions about which one were good perks and some of the more, we'll say, useless ones. In my opinion, virtually every single perk in Cold War serves a relatively vital function, and all of them really do have their uses. There isn't a single one that you really can play without and not notice, except for maybe one of them, but we'll get into that. We're going to be ranking all 10 of these Cold War Zombies perks from worst to best, and really determining exactly what makes a perk worthwhile and what makes them good in this game. So I hope you guys do find today's video enjoyable. If you do, make sure to drop a thumbs up. That would be wonderful. Subscribe also if you're new to the channel, not only from our Cold War Zombies content, but also Vanguard coming up very soon. And then, of course, we've got another Treyarch Zombies title coming up after that. But anyways, we've got a lot to unpack here, so we may as well get started. So coming in at our worst spot on this perk list is gonna have to be Tombstone Soda. I feel like that really won't shock any of you. This was added when Firebase Z came out, and honestly, it was one of the ones that the zombies community expected the least. However, it's pretty much just as useless in this game as it has been in like previous titles like Black Ops 2. Fundamentally, I think the biggest problem with Tombstone is that compared to all of the other perks in Cold War, this is not really an active perk. Even as far as like even Death Perception and Mule Kick might be more classified as passive perks, I don't even think Tombstone falls in that category. This is only like a get out of jail free card if you happen to be dying a lot. The biggest plus that Tombstone has is the prevented perk decay when you do go down. That can be a complete godsend and a lifesaver in like very clutch boss fight situations or otherwise, and it's just a nice thing to have in general to not have to replace all of your perks every single time you go down. So to a degree that is useful, but all things considered, Tombstone doesn't have a lot going for it, and especially if you are primarily a solo player. Even in co-op, if you're not dying a whole lot and your teammates aren't, I don't think you're going to get much mileage out of Tombstone, and it's got to come on this list as the worst perk. So moving on next, we have Elemental Pop, and that really hurts me to say because I love how Elemental Pop works in this game, and I just love the perk, generally speaking, the aesthetic and all. But the problem is, I feel like my grievance with Elemental Pop is the lack of control that you get. There are some situations in which Elemental Pop can cause an activation of your alternate ammo type in a scenario where you really don't want it to, or perhaps it's the wrong ammo type, stuff like that. The reload can also sometimes kill the last zombie if you're careless about it. It is extremely useful in terms of getting yourself out of a like dicey situation with that reload. So by no means is Elemental Pop a bad perk, but if we're having to rank these against each other, I have to say it's probably going to be a little bit lower on my list. It does allow you to deal 50% more damage to elemental weaknesses on specials and elite enemies, and that's probably the biggest benefit you're going to see out of this perk. But otherwise, a lot of the things I could play without. It's just the reload and the extra elemental weakness are virtually unplayable without it. But Elemental Pop, pretty good. Maybe not the best perk in the game, but I very do much enjoy it. So coming up just above that, we have Juggernog. And listen, before everybody gets upset, am I saying Juggernog is a bad perk? Absolutely not. The case that I'm going to make with Jug, specifically in Cold War Zombies, is that it's less necessary in this game than it has been in previous titles. And there's a few reasons for that, namely the armor system is fundamentally almost what Juggernog does, alongside Quick Revive, which we'll get into a little bit later. But Juggernog just basically, obviously allows you to survive longer. It makes armor resistance better, gonna give you more max HP, but really that's about it. There's a lot of uses and a lot of methods for recovering health in this game that, in all honesty, you can play without Juggernog a lot of the time, and it's not too big of a deal as long as you're on your toes and you're playing careful. Again, by no means is it a bad perk, but it's not as like overpowered or game breaking as one might be led to think. So moving up a little bit on our list, next is going to be Speed Cola, and again, a perk I very much like. I've seen a lot of the community complain about Cold War Zombies, specifically Speed Cola, because it doesn't seem to be as effective in terms of that raw reload time as it has in other games, and that's true and fair enough to some extent because a lot of that like reload time potential is balanced with the like loadout system and the fast mags and stuff you can get from that, so they had to sort of tone down Speed Cola in order to work with the rest of the systems, and I understand that. What Speed Cola does, and I think the biggest benefit out of this perk by far, is the ability to shoot while sprinting. This is an absolutely unmatched mechanic that you literally can't play without and do like a very high round boss fight on if you don't have this. It allows you to space from the zombies properly while still putting out the optimal amount of damage to either something like the Legion or Forsaken boss fight in particular. Really good examples I can think of, but just generally a good mechanic to have. For sure the reload time is better, but honestly, sometimes I feel like I can take it or leave it. Depending on the gun, it feels like it doesn't even make that much of a difference sometimes. times. It's worth noting it also does recharge your specialist or your field upgrade a little bit faster, so you definitely don't want to do without that either. Speed Cola is a very good both active and passive perk, so it's definitely, you know, fairly high on this list. It's about middle. So moving on, coming up next, we have Quick Revive, and I said I was going to get back around to this in a minute. Quick Revive is literally what Juggernog maybe should be in this game, and the ability to recover health faster is quite literally what makes this perk so high tier. I could honestly, you know, live without the reviving teammates faster if possible, because there's other ways to do that, like healing aura or even upgraded ballistic knives. You can also like revive yourself by killing a zombie when you're down. Those are just like some added benefits, but aren't the real like meat of the perk. And that's certainly the ability to recover your health in only just a couple of seconds is probably what should have been worked into Juggernog in my opinion, but you know, it doesn't really matter either way. It makes the perk almost more beneficial health wise and survival wise comparatively to Juggernog. I mean, that obviously gives you more capacity, but would you rather have a higher capacity or just the ability to regenerate faster? That's kind of what it comes down to. Obviously you want both, but I think Quick Revive, all things considered, is probably more effective. So coming in just after that, we have Death Perception, which is a complete shocker of a perk to be added to the game. Nobody expected or saw this one coming, but it was really bizarre to see it added. Death Perception has a couple of unique mechanics, not only keying zombies through walls. The biggest thing with Death Perception is the added benefit to armor damage, and that absolutely cannot be understated. Also, the scrap and salvage multiplier that you get, about 20%, is like completely game changing as well. Death Perception is probably the best passive perk I've ever seen. I don't have too much to say about it other than that. I think Death Perception is great. Didn't expect it to be, but I really do like it. So anyways, coming up just after that, we have Deadshot Daiquiri, and this has probably got some of the coolest properties in the game of Cold War Zombies, and maybe is like Deadshot's bigger brother in terms of the armor damage you get. Now, the cool thing with Deadshot is that every consecutive hit, assuming it's fully upgraded to tier 5, will deal 2% more damage for a maximum of 20%. And that might not sound like a lot, but especially against heavily armored enemies and elites and stuff, this really does make a world of difference. Try fighting a Megaton with and without Deadshot upgraded on the same round using the same gun, and the difference is night and day. Of course, the auto aim to the head is also a classic, and it's like a very understated feature of the perk. It's pretty much the bread and butter, but it really just stacks upon itself, and it doesn't have any downsides at all. There's a few perks that like you kind of almost want some of the attributes to be reworked or go away to some degree, but Deadshot, literally everything's beneficial. I can't think of a single thing that I wouldn't want to use, and it's surprisingly very effective in Cold War. Maybe not so much in past zombie games, but in this one definitely takes the cake. So coming in just above that, surprisingly, is Mule Kick. I'm gonna say it, Mule Kick is one of the best perks in Cold War, and likely not for the reason you think. The ability to carry 3 guns is nice, but honestly, it's not needed, and I could do without it. The best part about Mule Kick are 2 things. You can hold extra equipment, so instead of 1, you can hold 2 Gersh devices. Also, the ability for that equipment not to be burned out of your slot after you use it is unbelievably strong, but the best part about it is the ability to reload weapons in your back pocket. You can swap to something else, and while you use that, the gun that you're not currently holding will reload automatically as well. This was yet another somewhat unexpected perk that I don't think everybody thought they wanted or needed, especially if it was only the ability to hold 3 perks. It would likely be the worst one in the entire game, but they've done a very creative and good job with the skill tier upgrades of making these like somewhat less favorable perks extremely useful in this meta, and Mule Kick is a prime example of that. So up next, near the very top of our list is going to be Stamina Up, and in particular, this is very good in Cold War. Like, obviously, it's been pretty good in every Zombies game it's ever appeared in. However, Cold War has a very big difference in including some of the elements of classic PhD, the negation of fall damage, the unlimited super sprint, which is unbelievably important in Cold War, as this is such like a movement-based game and aim-based as well. I feel like there are literally certain functions of the game that you just cannot participate in until you have Stamina Up fully upgraded. Like, you can't enjoy the game to its fullest until that point. And I'm going to assume that like 99% of Cold War Zombies players have their Ethereum crystals up to a point where they have Stamina Up upgraded. But if you don't, it's a completely different feeling game. To me, it's like pretty much the basis on what the entire system of Cold War Zombies is built on. And just generally, it's a great perk, and I think it makes the gameplay very, very well. But I don't think it's the best perk in that regard. This was on launch, but some of the DLC perks did go kind of crazy. And coming in at our number 1 spot, the best perk on this list This is going to have to be none other than PhD Slider. This is, of course, the last perk to be added just very recently, and I feel like they just kind of went wild, you know what I mean? Like, they literally just let all care out the window, made this perk as overpowered as they can be. It just blows everything else out of the water, and especially for a very movement-based player and also just like a movement-based game, this is something you're going to adore, and Tier 5 makes it absolutely ludicrous. PhD does retain the same flopper effect in which it completely negates the explosive damage self-inflicted, so you can throw grenades right next to yourself and you don't have to worry about anything in the entire world, but the movement speed you get on this, particularly when sliding and slide canceling, is from another planet, and it's like pretty much illegal how you can move this fast in zombies. Like, the only other way to do this is with Ether Shroud, but you pretty much just have an Ether Shroud at the tap of a button now, which is unbelievable. I think I would make the argument for sure that PhD Slider is unequivocally the best perk in Cold War Zombies as it stands. We're not going to get any more perks added to this game, but in terms of these systems, if they carry over into the future, if there's something that tops PhD, I will be genuinely surprised, and we'll have to see how the game balance changes as a result of that. But anyways, that is going to be my ranking of every single perk in Cold War Zombies from worst to best. Let me know what you guys thought of my list. If there's anything you would change or switch around, I'd love to know down below in the comment section. Also, if you guys don't follow me over on Twitch already, you can do that. It's a great place to hang out. Link to that is in the description. But once again, drop a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you all on the next live stream or the next video. Take it easy. I'm going to go, and peace out.